appreciate this wonderful masterpiece. Thank you.
The decision means that a majority of the members of the grand jury felt enough evidence existed in the case against Jackson to bring it to trial. After the indictment, to make matters even more complicated, Michael suddenly dismissed his attorneys, Mark Geragos and Benjamin Brofman. They were replaced by Thomas Mazzaro Jr., another well-known criminal defense attorney who represented actor Robert Blake in his murder case. Oh, he did that shit. Oh, he did that. He did the Robert Blake. Mickey from the Little Rascals, that mother hunchy did that shit. You hear me? And so did the OJ. It is obviously a tragic turn of events if Michael Jackson is being targeted with untrue allegations of child molestation. At this writing, he is enduring the saddest, most agonizing period of his life. Ironically, prior to this ordeal, he was beginning to rise to the challenge of looking at his world in a new and profound way, trying to come to terms with the ugliness of some of his past. He seemed to be finding a measure of contentment, perhaps for the first time, as he raised his children. He had also just begun to rediscover the joy of music. Finally, the Jody Chandler matter of a decade ago was beginning to fade from public consciousness. Then this new thing happened. In truth, there seems to never be a time when Michael Jackson is free from crisis. Debbie Rose's testimony on May 28, 2005. The fourth day was probably the most dramatic of the trial. She hadn't seen Michael in many years. He wouldn't speak to her as far as he was concerned. She betrayed him more than once by wanting to see the two children, Paris and Prince Michael, she'd had for him. Sometimes she wants them, he'd once told me in a phone conversation, and sometimes she doesn't. And I'm not going to screw my kids up by dropping her into the picture and then out of the picture. I'm mad at her now. Michael was certainly angry when Debbie made a play for the children right after he was arrested in 2003. In a legal declaration at the time, she claimed that she kept up her visiting rights to the children for about a year, but relinquished them because she couldn't handle all of the publicity surrounding the relationship and thought it would be in the children's best interest. I was scheduled to be in the courtroom for the verdict on that fateful June 13, 2005, and then planned to immediately race outside and report the results for the CBS News television audience. The reporters sitting next to me in court that day, who also felt Jackson was not guilty, wondered how they would keep their objectivity if the verdict came in otherwise. I have this awful feeling that I'll break down into tears, one female news reporter, a personal friend, told me. And how would that look on TV? But it's Michael Jackson, she reasoned. We have loved him since he was 10. In this case, with this kid and his family, I was sure that Michael was not guilty. Most of the evidence, or lack of it, had proved as much to me. Therefore, I was truly scared for him. When I watched him walk slowly and painfully into the courtroom on the day of the verdict, he already seemed like a broken man, and as if he was walking to a gas chamber. He had given up. I wasn't surprised. His dignity stripped from him, his career in a shambles. The humiliation alone would have done in most people, let alone a person as fragile and complex as Michael Jackson. Of course, the verdict was that Michael was found not guilty on all counts. In August of 2005, Michael turned 47. He had his freedom, but in truth, his problems were far from over. Rather than relish his new independence, Michael had sunk into a deep depression, often suffering from panic attacks and insomnia as if traumatized by the trial. He refused to speak about it. This was not the victory that his friends and fans had fought for. After the verdict, the pop star all but disappeared from public view. There were no post-trial parties, no triumphant press conferences. In truth, Michael was in no fit state to celebrate. He was too ill. A couple of days after the verdict, he checked into a hospital in Santa Barbara to be treated for exhaustion and dehydration. Not long after he was released, he took off, leaving Neverland, never to return. Baby, can you sleep the other way? Why you always gotta look me in my face while I'm working? Huh? Why? He went into total seclusion. A source close to the singer told me he was depressed, anxious, unable to eat or sleep. He almost lost it all. His freedom, his family, his career. Okay, Paul, this is how we know Michael Jackson is fucking nuts. Number one, you want to give your children to Diana Ross. Like it's a prize. Here go my children. Like Diana Ross would be like, oh yes, I'll take on Michael Jackson's Sherry. No, Diana Ross was like, no, I don't want them children. They probably fucked up. I'm not going to bring that chaos into my happy home. To this day, I wake up feeling upset and scared to death, and it takes me a half hour to remember that it's over. The only person Michael saw in the weeks after the trial, other than his children and their nanny, Grace Rabawa, was a therapist. A middle-aged man wearing pajamas is being pushed in a wheelchair down a busy sidewalk by an assistant. He is gaunt and frail looking. His skin seems to be peeling. His fingernails are a sickening shade of yellow, or is it brown? A surgical mask covers the bottom half of his face. Large sunglasses shield the top. He is wearing a red Marines baseball cap. Meanwhile, 3 children walk ahead of him, a girl with 2 boys. They seem happy, all 3 adorable in colorful clothing. They wear large caps, but apparently not in a deliberate attempt to shield their faces. Slow down, the man commands in a hoarse whisper. However, they ignore him as they quickly cross the street. Once on the other side of the street and in front of a bookstore, they wait for the man in the wheelchair. When he is finally rolled their way, one of the children dutifully holds the door as the man is wheeled into the store. Thank you, he says weakly. Then just as the 3 children are about to enter the establishment, a wide-eyed stranger approaches the smallest of them. Was that? She begins to ask. The boy is about to answer when a large man comes between him and the woman. No, that was not, says the man as he takes the boy by the hand and rushes him into the store. But then the young boy turns to his inquisitor, smiles broadly, and mouths just 2 words: Michael Jackson. The scene I've just described was typical of what went on in Michael's life almost every day while he lived in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2008. To commemorate the occasion of his 50th birthday, a CD called King of Pop was released worldwide. British fans compiled the track listing on certain media websites. Basically, it was 18 of the best Jackson songs as selected by the public. Also, he was the guest vocalist on a song called Hold My Hand by a recording artist called Akon. On the afternoon of June 25, 2009, I was tooling along in my convertible on the 101 North Freeway from Burbank back to my home in Encino, into which I'd just moved 2 months earlier. The top was down, the California sun was blazing, and as always, my music was blasting loud. On this afternoon, it was I Wanna Be Where You Are by Michael, a great little song he recorded for Motown in 1971. I remember thinking that it sounded particularly vibrant and exciting on that afternoon. What an astounding performance from a 13-year-old kid. I remember the day it was released. At the time, I wondered if he would ever leave the Jackson 5. As soon as I got home, the news hit that Michael had been taken to the hospital suffering from cardiac arrest. I was suspicious. He'd been rehearsing for a series of 50 concerts to take place from July to March 2010 in London. His great comeback, or so it was hoped. It was a lot to take on, and anyone who knew Michael knew that when he was in preparation for these kinds of endeavors, he was prone to severe panic attacks. The news that Michael Jackson had died after being rushed to the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center hit most people with the kind of defining moment impact of President John F. Kennedy's death, or that of his son, John, of Princess Diana's, or John Lennon, or, this is not what he put in the book, but I'm going to say Marvin Gaye. That shit hurt. Aretha Franklin, that hurt. Princess, that was enough. That shit shook us. People will always remember what they were doing when they learned of Michael's passing. I immediately went to work reporting the story for CBS News. The news cycle was fast moving and difficult to reconcile, especially when it became clear that probably Michael's cardiac arrest was a result of a drug overdose. Numerous vials of the dangerous anesthesia Diprivan propofol were found in his rented Homely Hills estate shortly after a nurse named Sherilyn Lee went on the record and saying that Jackson had asked her to seek it out for him. I cannot imagine a world without Michael Jackson in it. For the past 40 years, we have all been witness to Michael's heroic rise and tragic fall. We cheered as he made history with record after record, album after album. We watched in awe as he broke barriers and made impossibilities become reality. We appreciated his iconic sense of style: one sequined white glove, white socks, black leather shoes, red leather jacket, and a black fedora, and longed to do the moonwalk with perfect precision. We watched in shock as he transformed his image time and time again. We felt outrage at the allegations of child molestation, not knowing who or what to believe. And we watched in sadness as the world's longest running reality show reached its tragic and somewhat surreal conclusion on June 25th, 2009.